thank our members for their hard work, and I will now recognize our ranking member, Mr. McCaul of Texas, for his remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, our committee will mark up 6 important bills and 3 resolutions. I'd like to highlight just a few. Northern Triangle. As you mentioned, our trip to the Northern Triangle, the United States Northern Triangle Enhanced Engagement Act, which I'm the lead Republican on, increases congressional oversight of foreign assistance to the Northern Triangle and prioritizes security and the role of the private sector in supporting economic development efforts. We saw the good work of the international law enforcement community down there, the FBI, the DEA, working to combat MS-13, and we also saw many faith-based NGOs as well. It addresses, in my judgment, the root cause drivers of illegal migration from Central America and takes steps to help stop the flow at our borders. It also builds on existing efforts to increase coordination with Mexico in our efforts to curb illegal migration and combats corruption. I understand and share the President's frustration with the continued stream of migrants to our southern border, especially in my home state of Texas. And we believe we must use all tools at our disposal, including foreign assistance, to best address this growing crisis. Central American countries can and must do more to address their migration flows, and that's why this bill will require them to clearly show results with new benchmarks so progress can be tracked and programs modified or eliminated if warranted. On the branding bill, I'm pleased we're considering the USAID Branding Modernization Act. When I talked to Mark Green, he said shockingly that we do not put our United States flag on USAID. I think the branding of our foreign assistance is important in winning the hearts and minds of people that we are helping, while also pushing back against the influence of China and others as they operate overseas. The USAID Administrator, Mark Green, currently has limited authority to brand humanitarian aid. I believe it's important that the USAID be able to use its insignia, the American flag, and other U.S. agency branding as appropriate in each situation so that the recipients of our aid know that it is coming from the American people. This bill will expand the toolbox of branding capabilities that can be utilized by USAID and authorizes the administrator to use such branding in Food for Peace programs. On child marriage, I want to thank our vice-ranking member, Ms. Wagner, for her bill, the Preventing Child Marriage and Displaced Populations Act, which will require the United Nations to develop a strategy to address the inhumane practice of child marriage in U.S.-administered refugee settlements. I fully support this important legislation. Also, on energy diplomacy, I'd like to thank Mr. Congressman Wright from my home state of Texas, who introduced the Energy Diplomacy Act. This bill ensures the State Department has the leadership and discretion needed to fulfill its statutory responsibilities related to international energy diplomacy. Specifically, the bill replaces the Coordinator for International Energy Affairs with an Assistant Secretary of State for Energy Resources, an elevation requested by the Trump administration in August of 2017. The Assistant Secretary will be responsible for developing and implementing policies to advance U.S. energy interest abroad by managing our relations in petroleum, natural gas, biofuels, renewable energy, nuclear, and other energy resources. Further, it requires state to use diplomacy to support the development of U.S. energy resources to bolster our energy security, grow our economy, and support our allies. When it comes to Turkey, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you working with me on this resolution. I'm the lead Republican on it that expresses our concern for the U.S.-Turkey partnership and NATO alliance. This resolution states that the House fully supports the U.S. offer to sell Turkey our Patriot system and condemns Turkey's decision to acquire the Russian S-400 air and missile defense system. The time has come to put Turkey on notice that if they acquire the S-400 system, Congress will no longer support Turkey's participation in the F-35 program. We want to see Turkey have a course correction and make the better choice. And as you stated, Mr. Chairman, as a NATO ally who was brought into the NATO alliance that was built upon the premise of aligning against the Soviet Union. It seems incomprehensible to me that Turkey, a NATO ally, would buy a Russian S-400 system. This is not acceptable to this committee or to the administration, and I want to thank you, sir, for introducing this resolution. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. McCaul.